everyone, Kevin Stevenson here with GetMeTheGeek.com, and today we're going to talk about Synology NASs. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to set up an OpenVPN server on your Synology NAS so you can have remote access to not only your Synology, but the other PCs on your network from anywhere you want. Let's get started. Here we are. I am logged into my Synology, and first things first, what you want to do is you want to go over here to the Package Center. And you're going to go to all packages and you're going to use search. You can just search for VPN, hit enter, and it's going to come up with this VPN server. Now, you can scroll down here and you'll see that it gives you a little bit of information about the VPN. And it has a LP2, IPsec, OpenVPN, PPTP. You definitely don't want to use the PPTP one because that is really just at this point in time known to be very not secure and not recommended. So let's go ahead and just click install here, and we're going to wait just a second and that'll go through its thing. It's going to get this package and install it, and we'll be right back. Okay, so there you go. Now it is installed. We're going to go ahead and click open over here, and we're going to expand that up and I'll show you what we have here. So first off, in the overview, you'll have the PPTP, OpenVPN, and IPsec. So in this particular instance, we're going to use OpenVPN as our option. Down here on the left-hand side, you'll have a bunch of information. We're just going to go click on the OpenVPN. And a couple things to note here. First off is we're going to be able to enable, we're going to set the IP address range for this and a couple other options here. So let's just go ahead and click enable. And then you're going to choose this dynamic range. So by default, it's going to have something like a 10.8.0 network, and that's totally fine. You can change these to anything you want. The important thing here is that it's not the same as what your home network LAN is, or in addition to that, you want to make it something that you're not going to see when you're out and about. So these 10 numbers are great. We're just going to leave this the same. And now in the maximum connection numbers, we can just leave that to 5. You can change this to whatever you want. And connections of account, right? Okay, so keep in mind here that maximum connection is another number of different users you're going to have. And then the second one here is the reuse of those. So if you have one account that you've set up and you have like 3 people in your household and you just want them to reuse the account, you can do that for 3 people the way this is set up now. Okay, so that's important to keep that in mind. If you have more, just go ahead and increase those numbers. Just remember that the more connections you have coming in, the more bandwidth you need on your internet connection, and also the more load you're going to put on the Synology NAS. So by default, 1194 is OpenVPN's default port to use. So you can just leave that as that. No need to change it. However, if you want to pick a different port, you totally can. UDP is an option. And the default, you can use TCP. And then in encryption, you have all these options here, right? So we're just going to leave these as the default. We're just going to leave that at SHA-512. That's totally fine. Enable compression on the VPN link. That's also fine. Allow clients to access the server's LAN. You probably definitely want this here as an option. And basically what that's going to mean is that it's going to set it up to where you can access other PCs on the local area network, your LAN at home. So if you have other devices like a Habitat or another device that you want to access, you can do that by checking this box. Now, enable IPv6. So if you're using IPv6, go ahead and check that box. Otherwise, no need. And then all you got to do is hit apply. Boom. Right? So the thing it's going to say here is that in order for this to work, you need to port forward UDP 1194. That's going to happen in your router. And so your router is going to be different than most other people's routers. So you're going to need to set up that port forward by checking your documentation on how you do port forwarding in your router. That's basically set up. But there's more you need to do. You need to set up a user and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to go over here to privileges, and this is where you're going to have the users, right? You may use one of these users, but honestly, what you really should think about doing is setting up a specific user. So go over to your control panel and go to users, and let's create a user, right? We'll call this YouTube test, right? And you want to make sure that it's a good, strong password, right? So you can use the generator here. So the generator will pop one in there, right? And it'll give you something like that, right? Or you can put your own. Now, if you're not using a password manager, you should probably use a password manager. We're going to go ahead and do this. All right, so now I've created a good, strong password. Okay, so once you've got your password in there, go ahead and hit next. And it's going to create that. You can set this up in a default user group, hit next. And now we're going to add permissions here. We don't need to do anything like that. And boom. Okay, so now you've got a basic user setup. I'll give you just a second. Now you can close that, go back over here and refresh it. You're going to see your YouTube test user. Now, we want to just only set it for the user that we're using, so it has VPN access, right? And then hit save. So now you've set your user with your permissions. That's important. And it's also important to use a different user than your admin user. So, okay. All right. So now is the part where you go to your firewall and you set up those port forwarding. So in my particular case, I'm going to go to my OpenSense that I have set up on this. And we're going to go to firewall. And we're going to go to rules and NAT, port forwarding. Okay, so let's go ahead and add our port forward rule. So go over here and we're going to choose WAN from our interface, TCP4 or IPv4. We're going to choose UDP for our protocol, and our destination is going to be the WAN address, right? And then our port is going to be OpenVPN, and our target is going to be our IP address. Okay, and of course, the redirect port is going to be that OpenVPN again. And all the rest of the stuff, you can just leave it blank, associated rule. Now, if you want to give it a description, it says, and then hit save and apply changes. So now you've set up a WAN port to there. So now, there's a couple other things. If you don't have a public IP, if you don't have a static IP address, then you're either going to need to use dynamic DNS for your OpenSense or whatever firewall you're using, or use the dynamic DNS for your Synology, right? But in this particular case, I have a public IP address, and so everything is good here. Now, once you get a connection, you can have that set up there. Now, you're going to want to export your config. So let's go ahead and just click Export Config. So once you've exported your configuration, you're going to have a zip file that's going to contain a cert and an OVPN file. Just go ahead and edit that with VS Code or whatever you choose to use. Okay, so here's what you need to do. A couple things in here. First of all, you need your remote IP address. So this is where you're going to put the IP address of your public IP address. If you don't know what that is, you can just go to ipchicken.com and it'll tell you what your IP address is. But you'll need, that's going to change if you have dynamic. So just keep that in mind. Now, so you put that in here. You're going to change this. Now, the other thing you want to do is you're going to uncomment this redirect gateway. And so you're going to do that. And basically everything else is going to be pretty much good, right? So I'm going to do that real quick and close this file out and get that set up for you. Okay, so what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take these files right here and you're going to copy them into your OpenVPN installation. But first, let's go show you how to get your OpenVPN client. Okay, so you just Google that and you go over here to downloads or Bing it, however you want to get that, and you're going to see the application here. So If you're Windows, you can just go ahead and click this guy right here and install your application. And if you need different versions, they have the different versions in here, right? So I've already done that. So give me just a second. I'm going to pop back and I will show you that. Okay, so here I have my Windows machine. So I'm going to go over here and you're going to look for where you install that application, OpenVPN. So you're going to go over to Program Files. You're going to roll on down to where you're going to find OpenVPN. If you don't see it in one, check the other one. So like I'm here and I don't see it. That's x86. We're going to go to the 64-bit one and you're going to find OpenVPN, right? So here you go. You go over to, okay. So once you're here, you're going to take your files and drop them in here. So I'm going to go ahead and paste them in. And here we are. So this is my VPN connections, right? All right. So you're going to have in the tray this OpenVPN service. There, I've moved my can. So down here, you're going to see an icon once you're running OpenVPN, and it should look like this guy right down here in the corner, right? So you can also type in OpenVPN GUI app and run it, and it should be down there. That's how to get it. Okay. So now what you're going to see is your application. So I have mine in here twice. So you're going to go ahead and hit connect. Okay. So now I've got these over here. So then you're going to put in your username and password that you created. And then click OK. So that's going to set up the connection and process that. And eventually that'll go away and you'll see that there's a little green icon down here in the bottom corner. That's all there is to getting your OpenVPN set up on a Synology NAS. It's as simple as that. Just remember the caveats that static IP address or using dynamic DNS as your operation. I have some other videos on how to do that. We can show you how to set up dynamic DNS in another one of our Synology videos. This is the first one of my series in Synology. So if you like this, you got something out of it, go ahead and smash that like button and we'll see you next time on our next video.